and I welcome you to the first ever installment of the Misfits USC Pregame Show. If you know me, I'm a student of USC. I've lived this experience for the past 3 years. I know the suffering that we go through, but I'm not just here to talk about USC. I also got my man, Elamb, in the studio. The both of us introduce to you what is now the Misfits Pregame Show here every Saturday morning to get your Saturday right. You know, Lee Corso leaving is obviously very sad, but hopefully we can fill a small little void of that. Just a small little void, bring you entertainment for 10 minutes. So I'll introduce my guy, Elamb. Thanks you for coming in. And, this is special. Elamb and me, we haven't been able to do a lot of things together as of recently. But Elamb, how are we feeling, man? I think you gotta there we go.
Sorry about that. Look, that's a rookie mistake right there. But it's your guy, Elamb. I apologize if it's a little loud. I'm here at Staples Center, but there's nowhere else I'd rather be than here with you. So thank you for having me here, Jude.
Yeah, let's get into it. And so to introduce these people, I think we're going to start with a segment every week. It's called On This Date in USC Football History. And since the first game of the season is August 30th, why don't we throw it back to 2017? And what happened for USC football in 2017, you're probably wondering. Well, Hall of Fame safety Troy Polamalu was one of 18 Trojan Lumineers selected to the 12th class of the USC's Athletics Hall of Fame. He was a one-time All-American while wearing the red and gold. He had 6 career interceptions, 3 of those which he returned for touchdowns. But I don't think I need to really speak about his NFL stats when it comes. He's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champ, 2010 Defensive Player of the Year. And so that's how we're going to get you started every single week here on the USC Pregame Show. I'll give you a little bit of history of what happened in USC football history. Whether we have to go back to the 1950s or we go back in the most recent years, we're going to let you know because we want to educate. That's the point of the Misfits. We're showing you new facts, new ways to learn. But let's break it down because we got to talk about the team that USC is playing tomorrow, Eric, and that is the Missouri State Bears. And well, you're probably not familiar with this team because they just this season joined the FBS. They've been in the FCS for as long as you can imagine, but they were pretty successful in the FCS. They had 5 FCS playoff appearances, 10 conference titles, and they were part of the Missouri Valley Football Conference. So now they are in Conference USA beginning this year. And I know this isn't a concern to Missouri State fans, but unfortunately, since they are in the transition period, they cannot play in postseason play. So they could go undefeated, and they would unfortunately be on their couch watching any sort of postseason college football play. But I think this is still a new year for Missouri State as they try to get their, the wheels under them, especially now in the FBS ranks at Conference USA. And well, they're opening up against USC. So that's a big time matchup already. Their head coach is Ryan Beard. He's now in his 3rd season. He's 12-11. Last year, Missouri State Bears, they were 8-4, and they were 4-3 on the road. And so they're going to have their first road test of the season tomorrow, 4 p.m. at the Los Angeles Coliseum. But let's now get into USC themselves. And I want to start, Eric, because I think this is going to be the more exciting part of what we're going to see from this USC team. And that is Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon. These 2 receivers, they're coming into their junior year. I think both guys really made a name for themselves last year, and they kind of work very well off each other, right? You got Mekhi Lemon, who's much more of that wide receiver. He's kind of inside the slot. He's going to beat you with his routes. And then Lane, well, he's going to head top you. He's going to do you dirty. He's going to make you embarrassed. He's going to put you on a highlight reel. Talk about this a little bit and your expectations for both these junior receivers heading into now their 2nd season as starters.
You know what? In this offense, I expect both of them. I would not be surprised if USC had 2 1,000 receivers. Mekhi Lemon, I think he's a little more dynamic with the ball in his hands. He's a lot shiftier. So him operating out of the slot, I think is going to be extremely problematic for opposing defenses. But what Jacoby Lane is able to do, this guy is a gamer. This guy right here is special. He will be playing on Sundays. Not saying Mr. Lemon won't be, but I guarantee you, Jacoby Lane will be a household name.
Well, yeah, Jacoby Lane last season led the Trojans with 12 total touchdowns. He had 525 receiving yards. But I agree with you. I think Mekhi Lemon, he's kind of that dual threat ability. He can kind of do it all coming out of the slot. He almost, not call me crazy, almost reminds you a little bit of Amon-Ra St. Brown coming out of USC, just a little bit. I think just with his dynamic ability, especially like I mentioned, out of the slot, and he kind of has that second level speed. Once the ball is in his hands, we saw him make some plays, especially in that game versus Rutgers. He can turn the burners on. I mean, he was almost taking Zachariah Branch's position for kickoff returns. I mean, that's something not a lot of guys can say. Just
that's huge.
Speed. But moving forward, and Eric, I know you're going to love this because I think I'm going to love this just as much as you do. Let's talk about Lincoln Riley. All right, Lincoln Riley is now heading into his 5th season here for the USC Trojans. And look, the record, you're probably going to look at the record and say, he's done a pretty good job. He's 26-14. They're 2-1 in bowl games. They've been ranked twice in the top 5 in 2 seasons. But there's still something missing with this Lincoln Riley-Trojan relationship. What is that? How long is the leash for Lincoln Riley?
What's missing is a willingness to impose his will by running the ball. That's what's missing out of the chemistry of Lincoln Riley. Now, how long is the leash, you ask? How long is a conference table for fairies? It's not that big. It's not that long. So that's how long Lincoln Riley's leash is going to be at USC. Lincoln Riley can ill afford, winning 6, 7 games, 8 games. He has to make the college football playoff this year. If he doesn't, as a proud alum of the institution, Lincoln Riley got to go.
Well, you can finish up right here. So you're saying that you're giving Lincoln Riley 1 more year?
No, I'm not giving Lincoln Riley 1 more year. This is the year. If he does not make the playoffs this year, Lincoln Riley has to go. Listen, this is USC. This is, what John Robinson, Pete Carroll, this is where they made their names. And Lincoln Riley has squandered a generational talent in Caleb Williams. There was absolutely no reason why he wasn't contending for a national championship with Caleb Williams on his roster. Now, what's going to happen this year? The defense is more than likely going to carry him. The offense is extremely young, so there's going to be growing pains. So I expect them to drop 2-3 games. But come playoff time, if they are not in contention for one of those final 2 spots, Lincoln Riley has to go.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, but I think it's just not going to happen. I think there's too much money that is put into Lincoln Riley, and it's not just Lincoln Riley itself. You talk about the football program themselves. I've walked past it now every day since being a student at USC. That $200 million football facility that they're building, I think, is keeping Lincoln Riley's job here because everyone in USC is saying, okay, Lincoln Riley, he's going to take us to that promised land. I don't think me and you believe that. I think we both are on that same part, but I just think there is so much money that is invested right now into Lincoln Riley and this football team. It's going to be hard to cut their losses with the guy that they gave 2 private jets to and a house down in South Bay. So I would love to see it happen after this year, but I think USC is going to continue to push through. But I agree. I think the running game is such a critical thing. We've seen it these past few seasons. I mean, I was pleading for Woody Marks to get more touches last year. He finally did it, but it was a little bit too late. And he obviously, we ended up in a 7-5 situation and another typical Lincoln Riley year. But it's interesting that you mentioned this young offense because I want to talk about the player to watch in this game and especially coming up this season. That's going to be starting quarterback Jada Maiava. We saw Jada Maiava at the end of the season. It was Miller Moss's team to begin the season last year. It was a competition in the fall camp. Finally, Miller Moss won the job out. But I think we intuitively knew that there was going to be some time that Jada Maiava was finally going to take the reins. And he did. He went 3 for 1 in those final 4 games. He beat UCLA, the big rival. He won their bowl game versus Texas A&M. But here's my question, and this is why he's my player to watch. Has he improved his decision-making? That was something that we saw a lot with Jada Maiava and his ability to operate in a pocket. He has the big arm. There's no question. We saw that at UNLV and what he was doing the year before. But he has to improve his decision-making. This team is only going to go as far as Jada Maiava plays. We've seen what Lincoln Riley does offensively. We see how pass-heavy, as much as we want that run to be there, it's going to always be a pass-heavy offense as long as Lincoln Riley has that headset on. And we talked about it. You have 2-star guys, Makai Lemon and Jacoby Lane. Look, they can be playmakers all they want, but the quarterback is also going to have to make the right reads. That is why Jada Maiava is my player to watch. Elamb, who should people watch out for, not just in this Missouri State game, but in this season to come?
Listen, player, I'm talking unit. This season is going to hinge upon those big guys up front, the big uglies, the offensive line. I'm looking at Elijah Page, Alani Noah. I'm looking at Killian O'Connor, Justin Tounu, and Tobias Raymond. Those 5 guys are going to determine the trajectory and what ultimately happens with this program. Now, tomorrow, the key is 300 yards rushing. If USC can amass 300 yards rushing, not passing, I don't care if they throw for 1,000 yards tomorrow, 300 yards rushing, that is going to determine a ton. I need these 5 guys to blow defenders off the lines, and even more so, is Lincoln Riley willing to run the ball?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing. They got 2 transfer running backs, Waymo Jordan, a guy that's coming from a community college. He was legit in community college, but the FBS is a different ballgame. Eli Sanders coming from New Mexico. He's now going to be playing in the Big Ten. So, I hope to see the run game improve. I think 300 yards is maybe a lot. I would probably put it at 200, but we'll still say that we got to see the USC run game do a lot. But, you can't finish a pregame show, Eric, without giving your prediction. So I'll start first. I'll give my prediction. Look, I think it's going to be a slow start to this offense. I think they're going to try to find their footing, but I think at the end of the day, USC wins this game 30-14. What is your pick?
I think Missouri State scores 10 points, but give me 35. I think the Trojans score 35, so 35-10.
Yeah, well, that will be only known by the end of the 4:00 game between the USC Trojans and the Missouri State Bears. The first game in the Los Angeles Coliseum to open up the 2025 season, the second season that USC is participating in the Big Ten. Alongside Eric Lampkins, I am Jude Tinius. We hope you've enjoyed this first edition of the USC Pregame Show. And we're going to keep it coming. USC football is just starting. College football is just starting. We got a lot of big games coming up. It's Ohio State versus Texas. We probably have our eyes a little more tuned in on that. But USC, Missouri State Bears, 4:00 tomorrow, or today, I should say. Other than that, it's been a great one, and we'll see you around the corner next week.